some of you have been to this museum. Kate, I just was asking Kate if she had been in here. She arrived in Paris just before the lockdown last year. So that was some pretty bad timing. But when I'm there, I'm going to take her and Crystal because neither one of them have been in this museum. And I know of those of you that have, I know Cheryl has. It's a beautiful, beautiful museum. And recently we did a podcast episode all about Église Jacquemart. So I put a link to that in the notes that I will email you all afterwards. But the museum itself is housed in the former home. It was originally built by Edward André. He was in a very wealthy banking family, and he decided he went into the military. He didn't really want to work at first for the family business. He went into the military, and then he eventually was in the protective detail of Napoleon III. Once he decided he wanted to stop doing that, he did get into the family business, was probably a lot more lucrative for him. And then in 1869, this whole area was being transformed by Haussmann, of course, as the street this actually sits on is the Boulevard Haussmann. A lot of this area was kind of brand new to them for building. A lot of the buildings right around this area are all the Second Empire. So in 1869, he had Henry Parent, who was the runner-up to the building of the Palais Garnier. He had him, commissioned him to build this beautiful, amazing house. There is inside this, it's in what is called the Winter Garden. There is a staircase. It's absolutely phenomenal. I have posted it before on my Instagram. It was done by Mr. Garnier. So they're both in there. Gotta love a good lion. This house is just, it's everything. The courtyard is so cool. One little weird thing I do when I'm in Paris is different places I go. I don't do it everywhere, but I always will pick up like a little pebble. And so I have actually on my desk, there's a few of them right here. I never remember afterwards where they came from, but I have this little dish in my bathroom that is filled with all these little rocks and stuff. I did pick up when I went onto the upper facade of Saint-Sulpice, where you got to go actually up there and look out over up above Saint-Sulpice, which was amazing. I was like picking up little like chunks of the stucco stone that came off the wall. But I never know where they're from once I throw them in my purse. I get home and have this little jar of stones from Paris. But I'm sure I know I have one from here. But this is this wonderful little, could you just imagine them riding in their carriage with their horses coming through here? I was gonna say, they can make us go through the gift shop.
I think I might have to, you know.
Maybe get a sneak around there. We'll see what happens. But so Nelly Jacquemart was actually a artist herself. And so in 1872, she was asked to come there and meet with Edward, and he wanted her to paint him. So the two of them met. He painted him. Oh, look, we're like fast forwarding now.
Sorry, I think my data. Oh,
Trying to look for something. But in 1872, she painted him. And then in 1881, on January 29th, after the urging of his family, the two of them got married. The two of them, hey, Kate, do you want to go across? Are you going to go across the street so we can see kind of a better view of this side? So he had been kind of suffering. He was ill, and his family kind of was looking for somebody to kind of be with him and to take care of him. And they kind of convinced Nelly to for the job. And so she agreed and she married him. In 1894, he died. When she married him, the original will had stated that everything would come back to the family. But then prior to his death, he changed that. They were married for 13 years before he passed away. And he had changed that will giving everything to Nellie. And of course, after he died, when the family figured this out, they were pretty irate, and tried to block everything and take her to court, but nothing, it didn't hold up, and she still retained the rights to everything. She ended up, having this house. She also purchased the Abbey de Chailly, which is outside of Paris, which I hadn't heard about till I did research about her. It was purchased. You'll have to hear the whole story about her affection to that property, but it also is a museum, and it has, between the two places, she has over 5,000 pieces that is in stretched between the two museums. There's this one in Paris, and then the other one, the Abbey, that is where she's also buried. She had a tomb created that's in a little chapel there. The story of the Abbey is really, really cool. So definitely check that out. Check that episode out if you didn't listen to it already. It is interesting though, because everything in the house and a lot of the stuff they put out there describes this grand love affair that the two of them had. It wasn't really like that. It was more of a business relationship, but that's okay. But it is interesting. Everybody thinks it was this, couple in love, and they collected art, and they did do that. They did travel around the world. She traveled after his death. She was actually about to go to Asia. She was going to go to Japan when she found out the Abbey was for sale, and changed her trip and came back to Paris. So this street, the houses on this street, the buildings are all pretty much all Second Empire, and they are pretty glorious. This is the Boulevard Haussmann, of course. As he cut through the city, this is named after him because when he demolished the homes, which was over 18,000 homes that were demolished for the cutting through, one of them was the one he grew up in. And it was right around here. So he demolished his own home. He's a very interesting character, Baron Haussmann. But look at these doors. They're just gorgeous. Everything is carved and above it. And a lot of these big places are now, a lot of them are businesses, a lot of these gorgeous buildings. The gimbal's freaking out.
Sorry, it's keep trying to go into portrait mode or something.
Technology. I got to find mine before I come there. I can't remember where I put it, so I got to figure that out. So this street, of course, is one of the long boulevards. It's part of the Grand Boulevards. And there, of course, we have our street benches by Baltar, who we will see his work coming up when we see the Saint Augustin Church, which is beautiful. There's a building we're going to come up to here a little bit. I think it's at the end of the next block on the left-hand side. It was the former home of a woman named Geneviève Helvy. She was very famous for her salons that she held. She was originally first married to George Bizet, who wrote Carmen. He unexpectedly died when he was just 36 years old. And so her uncle and her cousin moved into the same building that they lived over in the 9th. And they ended up having these grand salons, and she had all these suitors that were chasing after her, including Degas. And so she'd have these parties and these salons, and she ended up meeting another gentleman named Emile Strauss. It was widely rumored. It's a beautiful door there right across the street. It was widely rumored. I guess we could go over to that side because we'll need to get eventually over safely over there, Kate. They thought he was, is rumored that she was his brother. So she thought to squash those rumors, she would marry him. But back then, that didn't really squash rumors, since people were marrying their first cousins and all that kind of stuff. But they ended up moving into this building. And as you could see, look at this building, it's amazing. they had salons there. They were widely supportive of Dreyfus when the Dreyfus Affair came. I was just thinking the other day, I should do a whole episode about the Dreyfus Affair because I don't think people know that much. But did you know that Julie Louis Dreyfus from Seinfeld, she's related to Dreyfus of the Dreyfus Affair. So look at that bill. Oh, so gorgeous. And of course you have the railings and everything of Hostman. That's beautiful. So gorgeous. And so they lived here up until her death when she died. After that, they didn't have any children, or she had a son, I'm sorry, with Bizet, and he ended up actually committing suicide before his mother passed away. The original entrance to it was over here on the side street. But when I last was there, I couldn't really, I think they changed it because I couldn't, unless they had it right there and then modernized the entrance. But if you haven't walked around this building, we're not that far from Parc Monceau to give you a little bit of, look at that. Ugh, I would like to live right there with that big wraparound porch. I don't think that should be a problem. We're really close to Parc Monceau. The first time I did come down here, I think it was on the day that I also had gone to Parc Monceau. So if you're going, you could kind of do this little area all at once. There's another street that's not that far from there that Proust lived on, and quite a few other famous people had lived in some of those buildings there. It's really interesting. Oh, there's those scary toilets. I've never used those. I'm just traumatized. I'd get stuck in there, and the water and the cleaning stuff would turn on. So I haven't used it. But my friend is a flight attendant that was going over during the lockdown. She said it was horrible because she, usually you'd go into restaurants to use their restroom or use a restroom, when you're at lunch, and none of them were open. So she was forced to brave the self-cleaning.
I'm afraid it's become a necessity.
I know. Yeah.
Until now. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that because that's what I do too. So I was like, oh, that's right. This area on a Sunday is usually pretty sleepy as far as restaurants. Most everything around here on a Sunday is closed in this whole area. So keep that in mind if you're going to go over there. We're going to chase after that guy, freak him out. We're going to go over here where we have a statue of Mr. Haussmann himself. Right over here. This is a monument to him that was done by Francois Cognier. And of course, he's here standing here, looking very regal, looking out. I love the fact that he's standing in front of one of his buildings with the perfect iron railings on it. If you ever see these in Paris, there was quite a few different rules. They're always on the 2nd and the 5th level. The 2nd is the Étage Nobel, because it is a little bit off the street, but back then, that was where the fanciest people of the building lived, because it was off the street a little, but it wasn't too far for them to have to walk up the stairs. So that's why that railing that floor always has a railing. But it is when you look at a street, especially that is like basically predominantly all Second Empire, that all have those railings, it gives like a symmetry to everything. It kind of just gives it a real flawless look. It's one of the things that makes it Paris so beautiful, I think. The other thing I love about his buildings is the building can never be as high as the street. So if you took these buildings and literally tipped them over and laid them across the street, they could not be any wider. They couldn't be any taller than the street is wide. It's kind of one of my favorite little things. But he, of course, is standing here looking through at all of his things up in front of him. This artist also did the statue of George Clemenceau that we saw, that's over by the Petit Palais. I think they need to give him a little cleaning. But he became Napoleon III's right-hand man in June 29th, 1853. He took over for another man named Jean-Jacques Berger. He basically worked with Napoleon on his vision to change over Paris. Partly it was for sanitary reasons. It was also to get more water into the city. But it was also, some other stuff had been going on in London. Napoleon III was kind of inspired by some of that and wanted to have this amazing, transform Paris into what we see of it today. It took 17 years for a lot of this stuff to basically come to fruition. He also did a lot of the gardens. I love this little place here. It's like a stationery store, but I love that how it has the old facade and everything on it. Oh, there's Kate. Hi, Kate. It's really cute. But he had done the, Bois de Boulogne, Vincennes, Bouchermont. He did all of these different parks in the city, basically designing and adding them in. Napoleon III wanted a garden and a park for every single neighborhood, so within walking distance. So they added 80 different parks into the city of Paris. That place, I love that they wrap that rug around that mannequin, but it's always like that. I think I saw it years ago. It looked like that.
Lazy window dressing.
It is. This little tiny street is the Rue d'Argenson. It's named for a family that used to live right around there. Look at that door. Oh, so gorgeous. Dating back to the 14th century. The doors are just, ugh. I don't know about you, but I definitely don't, travel around Portland and ooh and ah over doors. It's definitely something very special that Paris has. And this is one of those things I had to search out on one of my trips, and I was actually so excited when I came over here and found it. It was I believe it was on a Sunday morning because it was very, very quiet over here. We are on the Rue La Botte, and this was named after a gentleman named Etienne de Botte. He was a poet. He was from the south of France. This whole area, look at that. Ugh. This whole area was once the royal nursery. It almost looks like they have a Wallace fountain back there.
They do. They do. They've got their own private one with a lovely floral display.
Wow.
I know.
I didn't know about the private Wallace fountains. That's pretty fancy. But this was a royal nursery. It stretched all the way from the Champs-Élysées over to the Rue de Faubourg Saint-Honoré. And so that was all the way up until 1777. So it didn't change over until so after 1777. This building right here, there's a plaque right there. Oh, look what's underneath it.
Yeah.
Yay. I love finding those. This building right here, you could see from this little plaque. This was once the studio of Paul Rosenberg. Paul Rosenberg, his father, Alexander, had arrived from Paris, into Paris from Austria. And in 1878, he set up an antique business and he collected Impressionist and post-Impressionist paintings. Paul and his brother would work with his father and eventually took over the business and setting up this gallery. Paul did this, his brother went and did his own thing. Paul set this one up. He would travel around to London and Vienna and New York buying art. His first painting he bought was a Van Gogh and another was a Manet, and he bought it for $200, basically the equivalent of $200. Can you imagine? Ugh. But in 1906, his dad retired, and he eventually, Paul changed the business, so he was only selling paintings. Eventually in the late 1930s, Paul began to send his pieces to New York, London, Austria, and even South America, because in the late 1930s, there was all of the, it was starting to come out that Hitler was on the hunt for art, was moving across. So he started sending out his paintings, but he wasn't fast enough, unfortunately. When the ERR arrived, we'll go down to the next building too, where all the ugly scaffolding is. When the ERR arrived, the very first place that they came to visit that was top of the list was to come to the gallery of Paul Rosenberg. He had sent off a lot of his stuff, but there was still 110 paintings that they stole. A lot of it they thought was degenerate art, which was basically a lot of they thought Van Gogh and Picasso, the Cubists, they all thought that was degenerate art. And Hermann Goering did like it, even though Hitler did not. So some of it was saved because greedy Goering would save it. Some of the stuff was actually put into a pile in the Tuileries and set on fire, which just makes me just absolutely sick. Rose Valland said she saw this, stood there and watched it all going up in flames, which is horrific. Afterwards, they ended up getting about 30 of the paintings back. 80 of them are still missing. His granddaughter is Anne Sinclair. She is a French reporter, a journalist. She was married to, what's the guy's name?
DSK.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the initials. He's the
Yeah.
one that he basically was in line to become the president of France. He was going to run, and then he came to New York and he was accused of rape, I think it was, and that basically squashed his whole thing. She ended up, I think, leaving him about the same time, which, one would probably be doing. But she's still, she's a big voice. They did a exhibition at the Musée Milo years ago. That was just called 21 Rue Le Boite. And sadly, I had not seen it, but I did pick up the catalog because they were still selling them. And so it's really fascinating. But still, 80 of those paintings that were stolen by the Germans are still missing. So hopefully they will turn up. But right next door here at this building, there used to be a plaque on here, but there's not anymore. I could have sworn there was a plaque before. But in this building right here, a brother-in-law of Paul's business partner was friends with Picasso. He was able to get Paul a meeting with Picasso, and he ended up becoming his exclusive dealer. Picasso had worked for a short time with Bert Weil, who we also did an episode about, which I still need to share because it was, it's on there if you look up the podcast, but I still need to share it on social media because it was when I was in the hospital. But Picasso ended up moving in here. So Paul could kind of keep an eye on him, keep him on track. It was a 5-roomed apartment, and that's interesting with that wire. He took all the doors off of it, and it was basically had no furniture in there, and it was just piled up with canvases. Picasso was an extremely fast painter, and the floor was covered with cigarette butts. And so he would stay there, and he ended up staying there until 1932. He was there for about 14 years, right next to Paul in the studio. So, but apparently in Paul's studio where it was, they kept all of the original wood paneling in there, and it's now an office building. But the wood paneling and everything from when it was his studio, I think I actually have some pictures of it in that catalog that came from the exhibition. I'll have to see and post some photos of it. But I was so excited to go see that location, even though there's just such a sad and horrible story to what happened to all of that art. But they fled to the United States. But some of their paintings, some of the galleries, including Paul, had put some of their paintings in vaults in the banks of Paris. That was also not safe because those were also stolen. See, it's very quiet. I mean, even the tobacco's closed. It's a very quiet area. And I think this is where Carrie, is Carrie watching live today? I think this is where Carrie said she always stays in this area. We are not far from the Champs-Élysées as well. A few blocks away. I'm glad you didn't have any rain today, Kate, but those clouds look a little ominous.
Yeah, I think we're going to be okay, because it was forecast to be thunderstorms, but we had one about 2 p.m. So I think it's passed.
And we're going to head up here. We're going to kind of weave in between these little side streets. We're going to head over here. This is Rue Roy. It was the Minister of Finance for Charles X, the Count Antoine Roy. Oh my gosh, it looked like you were going to run right into the building. Oh, what a funny little stretch. And this, of course, this is, I was thinking we'd go up and down the major streets, but these are the little side streets are kind of fun and much more interesting. This, if you continued on this very busy street, you would end up going right in front of the Parc Monceau. A lot of the courtesans of the time, a few of them have all, their homes were on these streets. We love the courtesans, of course. All their stories. I think this is a golf store. I think when I was looking, it was said that this was like a golf store, which I just thought was.
Yeah, there's like 3 around here.
Yeah.
All specialist golf stores.
It's a big golfing area, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go down this little street because at the end, when you come out here, we're going to come out right by Saint Augustin. But this building right in front of it that we'll see is this really gorgeous building. The last couple times I've been up here, it's always been covered with scaffolding. So I'm excited to see all the scaffolding gone. It's the National Circle of the Armed Forces. And afterwards, we'll have to see the facade. They have all these sculptures, and it's all like these sculptures of armor and weapons and stuff, but it's all really neat. And so I always wondered like what exactly this building was. It was only built in 1927. It looks much older. It was in the neoclassical style by Charles Lemarquier. And he was at the time the architect of the national monuments. The CNA is the members here are officers and retired officers and enlisted officers and members of recipients of the Legion of Honor. Inside there's 3 separate hotels, and there's also 3 different restaurants here, and there's a bar and event spaces. And so you could actually go online. I think I put a link to it in the notes. It's like, you could go stay there for like 80 euros or something like that. So, but unfortunately you have to be a member of one of those things. But the rooms and the event space and stuff they're really beautiful. But the building is really cool. And of course you get to sit out here and look at this view. We'll head over to our little lady there in the center. Kate's so good at taking the crosswalks. I would just be like, just take my life in my own hands and just run out through the street.
Can't risk it with these crazy drivers.
Oh, that's true. They are a little crazy there.
Although they ignore the crossings anyway. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. So of course we have here at the very tip of this, yet another one of these grand vistas that Haussmann and Napoleon III wanted. Is she missing her sword? Oh no, there is. This is of course the one and only Joan of Arc. This is actually with the wonderful church in the background. She is actually the copy of the one that's in front of the Notre Dame de Reims in Champagne region, which if you have not seen that church, you need to go see it immediately. It's stunning. And it also has windows in it by Chagall, which I love. This was actually done by Paul Dubois. He was commissioned to do one for the city of Reims, by the city of Reims in 1888. The original one was a plaster model that was then approved. He did 3 different versions, or 3 separate sculptures. They're all exact copies of each other. The first one, of course, is in Reims. The second one, this one, actually for a while sat in the Pantheon, in front of, if you go to the Pantheon on the north transept, are these beautiful murals that were done. I think there's 7 of them, 7 or 9, and they all basically depict the different stories of her life. And this sat inside the Pantheon for a long time until it ended up coming here and in front of the church. This one, as opposed to the one in front or near the Louvre in the Place de Pyramide, that one she's holding in her right hand a flag. This one she's looks like she's, you know, ready to charge, and she has her sword up in the air, which it's perfect for the one in Reims because that's where, you know, she led them. But of course she was put here in basically where these 2 different boulevards converge. So she's charging right out. There's a 3rd copy of this in Strasbourg, and there's also one in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., she's missing her sword. The one that's at by the Louvre, the pyramids, the beautiful gold one, there's one of her sister ones here in Portland, which I learned long ago, but I was like reading something about 12 years ago, and I was like, what? Wait, what? And had to go find it immediately. I think there's the same one as St. Louis. Isn't there, Cheryl? I think that one's in St. Louis. But now we're going to go inside here and see this beautiful church. This is Saint Augustin. I'm really hoping our signal's going to be okay. This has been under restoration for a while. It is now, of course, done. So I think every time I've seen this, the front has been covered. But the facade is absolutely amazing. This was also done by our iron working man, Victor Baltar, in 1860 to 1871. So pretty quick when you consider some of the other churches. The facade there there's 43 sculptures basically on the outside of the building. This one you can see right above there, there's the 12 apostles with Jesus in the center. And then below that, there's the 4 different, you have on the left, you have St. Matthew, that's kind of at the top of the columns. Then you have the lion of St. Mark, the bulldog of St. Luke, and the eagle of Saint Jean. They're just standing over there and keeping an eye on everybody as they come in. And then you have Saint Augustin standing over there on the corners. They did a beautiful job with the restoration here. Above the doors, there's some medallions that were done by Paul Bazet in 1830. They are the 3 theological virtues. There's in the center is faith, to the left is hope, and the right is charity. And the doors themselves were done by Victor. Down at the bottom of them, do you see initials? This is VB. There should be his. There it is. That's Victor himself. Left us his little signature there. But these doors are gorgeous. He had these designed. And then at the top of each one, there are bas-reliefs of the 4 cardinal virtues: force, justice, prudence, and temperance. But the doors are actually, because they're done with iron, they're actually thinner. Like if you remember the doors that we saw on the Madeleine, those are some hefty doors. And those were supposed to be much lighter than the ones that they were kind of influenced by one in, are we in church? Oh, no. We'll see if we, you might want to put it on mute. kind of loud. We'll see if they're going to let us in. But this church, if you look up, we get kind of, well, it's kind of a, hopefully the back part of it's so cool. But if you look up above the church, this is one of the few churches in Paris that is done with ironwork that is still visible. A lot of when they started introducing ironwork into the churches, a lot of them, like the Notre Dame de Champs, it's all covered then. So this one, you could see these cast iron columns on the side. They're each topped with an angel, a polychrome angel, and then the top, you could see that gorgeous filigree ironwork up there. That's beautiful. There's all the stained glasses of the saints that go around the very top. But this is a really beautiful church. When it was created, it was actually, the intent was going to be that it was going to be the tomb of Napoleon III and Eugenie, his wife. But then they ended up, being exiled and going over to England. And then that's where he died. And he was buried in England. They keep threatening every once in a while to bring them back over here to France, but that's kind of goes away. Saint Michel, of course. Anytime you see a saint torturing a dragon, or it's either Saint Michel or Saint Gabriel. They're probably not going to want to let us go through any farther on this. But the back of the church, you could kind of see, Kate maybe stands in the middle if we don't get in trouble, just to the middle of the back. If you kind of look down the center, there is a gorgeous, that whole structure in the center of it is just absolutely amazing. It's Byzantine. A lot of the church was inspired with Byzantine and neoclassical styles. In the back of it, you can see more of the ironwork. But there's this a gazebo-like piece that sits on the top of it. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And then in the top of the dome and the cupola, it's all painted around there. It's got all these big medallions. Did they give you dirty looks, Kate?
The guy ushered me out. Fair enough.
Oh,
it's like a scout meeting.
oh, it was.
It's like a scout ceremony.
Oh, like the Boy Scouts?
Like for the guides or something.
That's funny. Oh well, when I get back there, I'll have to go in at off times and just I'll make some videos for everybody of the inside of it. Because if you go during the day, that's another one of these churches that you hardly find anybody in. But the building itself, we'll go across the street to the park so we could hopefully look back and see the dome on the top. It's a very interesting, the shape of the church. Because it just basically is very straight. The inside of the church it's smaller at the entrance and then kind of bows out. And some of the chapels are very, very shallow and small that are over there. Here's a little statue. This is this here is the statue that was done by Paul Landowski. It's a Paul Delarode. He was a poet. And a playwright in 1846 to 1914. He was a big supporter of Dreyfus, and he was, at the time when they put up this statue to him, it was originally stone. It was damaged, and so they replaced it with a bronze one, just in time for the Germans to come to Paris and take it and melt it down. So it was replaced in 1949 with this bronze copy. Paul Landowski, of course, is the man that did the Saint-Geneviève on the Pont de la Tournelle, and then also the Christ the Redeemer in Rio. I thought I saw something recently said that they were going to copy the Christ the Redeemer and put it another one somewhere else in Rio. Oh, look, it's ping pong, table tennis. This is a really cute park, but it's great because you could also look back and you could see the dome. Those turrets that are on the side also act as buttresses, so it helps disperse. It helps disperse the weight. very Byzantine in the style. And it went up incredibly fast, the whole church, considering. But this is the square Marcel Pagnol. He was a French writer and a filmmaker that he died in 1974. This little street kind of goes all, or this little park goes all the way back. I swear this, I saw that they used this in some TV show or a movie I saw years ago, but I can't remember what it was. But this is a much quieter area considering it's still part of Paris. The statue here is, oh, of Saint Louis. Oh, okay. I can't think. There is another copy someplace in the United States of the golden one. I'll have to look it up. Look at all the roses are in bloom. It's so pretty. And we could walk, since we got so rudely escorted out, we could walk over in front of that military building. Are those animals in there?
I don't think so. There is a little cute library.
Oh yeah, the little lending libraries. Does everybody have those?
Yeah.
We have one that's not, there's one just down the street from my house. It's really cute. But we'll walk down in front of that military building. You can see the difference with the front of the church to the side of what's not clean. And I don't think anybody could just, maybe if they have an event, you could go into this building. But look at this. I mean, it's only from 1927, but I love that they still, it still looks very old. They've got those lions with kind of their pelts. But see, you could kind of see, you could see like the military. Oh my gosh, look at that door. This would be a great little cafe to sit in, to look back at the, look back up at the church. If Carrie's watching live, she'll have to tell us where she stays around here. But yeah, the very front of this building has, it's really cool. The sculptures on it. And you could tell it's very clean too. It's been, it's obviously it. But see, like there's a little armor there on the front. The first time I saw this, I was like, what is this? What is this place? My grandpa had a picture of this building too, probably because, you know, he had been in the military. Like it's so beautiful. I seem to remember more sculptures than that, that they went all the way across. But it's really beautiful. You could look, I'll post a link to the website that you could look up, because you could see the different event spaces in there and everything else. It's really neat that it was, you know, it's not even 100 years old. And it is, and it has the reception rooms and stuff are very fancy. Oh, there's some of with the armor. You see a lot of that at the at Les Invalides too. That's very pretty. Look, and the sunshine even came out. All right, those lights, everything's great. I think we could, yeah, if you keep going down this street, which we won't go. I think I actually ate lunch there, this restaurant right there. It was actually very good. You ended up, you'll head right towards the Madeleine. I wanted to go to the Chapelle Expiatoire. I thought I'd add that in today, but because you can't really see anything from outside, I'll do it when I get there, and I'll do it from inside. So I'm hoping to do quite a few of these from inside some of the different museums where they'll allow it, or ones that have like outdoor spaces as well. that so I don't get, hopefully don't get in trouble. I think if you continue on this street, you end up going back down to the Opera, to the Palais Garnier. So we're, once we got away from the Hotel Jacquemart, we definitely are getting a little more life into these, onto all the cafes down here. One of the few Morris columns. I think they wanted to get rid of all of those. People were not very happy about that. There was a big controversy because there was a photo passed around social media of this behind a gate, this big stack of 40 or so of the Parisian light towers, the beautiful cast iron ones. And so people were mad, saying that the mayor was just trying to get rid of it, all of the character and the old ones. But they came back, and I guess it was up in Saint Denis. So the mayor's office came back and said, that's not even here. We didn't do it. It still didn't really answer the question of what happened. What are they doing with those beautiful lights? But hopefully they'll all be saved. We could go back down across so we could get one last glimpse of the, go to your left, and get another glimpse looking back up at Joan in the church from over there. Whichever way. Look at how perfect that little spot is right there. And everything is getting back to, we're all getting kind of back to normal. Does anybody book their tickets for a trip coming up? I hope so. I know Dawn and Carol are thinking next year. I have this later on, probably this week, I'm going to announce some really cool thing I'm doing, and I'll just tell you guys first. I have been working with Girls Guide to Paris. My friend Donnie runs that. I've actually been doing work for her, doing trip planning for some of her customers. But I actually have created a 6-night, 7-day trip that'll be next fall, end of September, until the beginning of October. And it's all about the artists of the past. So I will we'll go to some museums and some authors and some artists. And then we will also, it's some of the stuff with Crystal, where we will actually see some of the new artists of Paris. And so I'm really excited. So I've been working on that. And it's been really fun. We're adding in, basically it'll have like my favorite, we go to some of my favorite restaurants, and a lot of Saint-Germain, but it will include, like the Delacroix and the Louvre and the Orsay, as well as an establishment that has over 100 different artists that work in today. And so I'm really excited. So we're going to announce that, I think, later on this week. We're going back and forth today on the photos, because they have to apparently be vertical and some are horizontal. So it's all these little things. But I'm really excited to announce that. That's going to be really, really fun. So that will be coming out soon, but it'd be fun to join us. I'm really excited. I do also take phone calls for her of people wanting to book trips. And they're just like the loveliest, nicest ladies. Some of them have been to Paris many times. Some of them have never been. But she also does trips all over the world, like Morocco and Vietnam and all those kind of places. But some of the ones interesting in Paris, some of the women, I tell them about this tour. And so they're really excited. So I'm excited to announce that. It'll be fun. So just top secret for you guys. So, oh, look at that. See? Worth it. And it's so nice to see it without the scaffolding. We'll leave you guys all with that lovely image. We'll get inside the church. I think we just need to, every time we go into a church, the last few days, the last few tours, we keep running into these darn people in there trying to have mass or do some sort of ceremony. And they're not too kind with us traipsing in there, I guess. So we will think about that. Next week is the 4th of July. And while that is not my favorite holiday in July, there's another one that happens on the 14th. That's my favorite. But we will next week see, I think we're going to go down and we'll go down and see where the Statue of Liberty is. And we'll do that little island and we'll walk around there and we'll see another sculpture of Miss Joan of Arc that's down there that a lot of people don't even know that that's who she is. That's who this sculpture is. But she's charging off towards the Eiffel Tower in this sculpture. So we will do that next week. So hopefully you could join us. And if you can't see it live, we'll send it to you. Not a problem, since it will be the 4th in case you're barbecuing or something. So, but thank you everybody for joining us today. And thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And good thing, I'm glad we had good weather so you didn't get rained on.
Funny now.
Or too hot of weather, I should also. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And we'll see everybody hopefully in a few days. Tomorrow, who's on tomorrow's episode of the is La Gula, and she is a really interesting character. She was a big dancer at the Moulin Rouge. She was captured in art by Toulouse-Lautrec, and she used to walk around her lions in Montmartre. So definitely listen to that episode because she was a character. But thank you everybody, and thank you Kate, and everybody have a great week, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.